Welcome back to another episode of the Profit Minded Business Podcast, where today we are joined by Tamika Milburn of one of the largest professional women's basketball leagues here. We're also joined by our resident co-host, Jacob Andrews of Drone iView Media and Drones iView, and now iView Robotics as well, too. So congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And of course, Lynn Spencer of Killingsworth Spencer, CPA. And of course, I'm Corbin Cook, your host, SMB Strategy Consultants. Tamika, I've gotten a chance to get to know you a little bit, but for everyone here who hasn't gotten to know you, tell us about your entrance into women's basketball and how you have risen to the top of the league with your teams, and you've now been also announced as president of the league. I mean, congratulations to you on all your accomplishments.
Thank you.
Tell us how it all got started.
So let's start with, never had an interest in basketball, men or women, in the beginning. I have an interest in kids, especially working with young girls and working with their mental and emotional development and their physical development as well. When I moved to Georgia about 5 or 6 years ago, I started a program called Atlanta's Young Misses, which focuses on the mental and emotional development of young girls. We use sports and we use exercise to build the confidence of young girls, starting in like 3rd grade, because that's the age when girls start to lose their confidence. And I became a sports performance trainer. I started training girls. Life happened. I got into a very bad car accident. So I could not train anymore. So I wanted to be able to continue to impact girls. I had a few friends and a few trainers who worked for me that played in the WNBA and that were playing on some leagues, some minor leagues that they really weren't satisfied with because of their talent. We found at that time, the WBCBL. They played in there, and it was a lot of competition, and we were able to bring a bunch of women together who had a passion not just for the sport, but also for developing young girls. So I started the team. I said, hey, you want a team? I asked the ladies that worked with me, I said, you want me to put a team together as long as you guys are continue to work with the kids? That was really my only prerequisite, as long as you continue to work with the kids. And we put the team together, and here we are. And that was in Atlanta.
That was the Monarchs.
That was the Monarchs last year in 2018. And then in Philadelphia, there hasn't been a pro women's basketball team there in over 20 years.
And this is the Philadelphia Reign. So you are the owner, or your group is the owner of the Atlanta Monarchs.
Yes.
And the Philadelphia Reign.
Yes.
And they were 2018 national champions, by the way.
Yes, the Atlanta Monarchs.
Yes,
the Philadelphia Reign, they're headed to that same path, undefeated so far. And I wanted to be able to put the same type of program for the girls in Philadelphia because that's where I'm from. Okay. So I was able to give back to Atlanta, and I'm going to continue to do that. And now we're able to go out and kind of do the same things in Philadelphia.
That's fantastic. Really great story. So, okay. All right. So you've been working with young women. Mm-hmm. Now, some of the things I've learned from you is just that the stats on what it does to them as they grow older, from the age of 13 to the age of 17. Tell us about what happens without me spoiling this amazing information.
So by the time, and this is crazy and a lot of people don't know this, by the time little girls are 9 or 10 years old, their self-esteem starts to decline drastically. By the time they're 10, 11, 12, they have body image issues. They start feeling like they're not good enough. They're not valuing themselves because they feel like other people don't value. And as their self-esteem continues to decline, they then start exhibiting behavior that is self-destructive, emotionally, physically, and mentally to themselves. So, it's hard, especially nowadays where you have so much influencing them. There's so many things going into their brains and into their, just into their hearts and into their souls. And then that's just the outside stuff. That's not even the normal 13, 14-year-old little girl stuff they have to deal with. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to combat that. We're trying to make sure that they don't lose that self-esteem at 9 or 10 years old. And it's funny because if you watch little girls, and you watch them, and when I watch the game, I watch people. I may not watch the game, but I watch people. And I look at the little 5 and 6-year-old girls who are in the stands and they're cheering and they're dancing and they're so excited. They don't care who's watching them. And then you look next to them and there's like an 11-year-old girl who's sitting there with her head down, and you can just see the difference. And it's because they start to lose that self-esteem, that confidence in themselves. So what we're doing is we're trying to build onto their self-confidence starting at 9 and 10 years old.
And how do you do that?
It's really about, that's the reason, people ask me, why don't you have a program for boys? Because I knew, I have a friend who played in the NBA, and they're like, why don't you have a program for boys? Because there's so many programs for boys, which is part of the reason why girls they don't value themselves, because their focus is always on the boys' sports. The focus is always on, so we're focusing on girls. So that's the first thing. We're making sure and we use a lot of physical, I was in the military, so I do think that physical activities help build self-esteem. That makes you believe that you can do things that you couldn't that you couldn't do. So we use a lot of physical activities to do that. And then we do a lot of We do our youth leadership conference, and we bring in women who have gone that same path that our girls have gone, and they talk our girls up. You know, they take the time, and we're talking judges. We have Gwinnett County judges, attorneys, people like that who are coming in and spending their time with girls and just showing them that they are valued. You know, we've done like the escape room with the girls, and the folks out there were awesome because again, they spent their time with them and it's really just showing them that they are valued because they're, you know, a lot of times they're not.
And I think having them be part of a group or a team environment has to help with that, where they're not going through it alone. And
it absolutely does.
Transforming that into like putting together these basketball teams where they can look up to, you know, older women that have been through what they have been before, I imagine only builds on top of that as well.
It absolutely does. And that's one of the things I encourage our pro players is to share their stories with our girls. Because a lot of times girls, they have friends that they don't even know are going through the same things. You know, so when you hear it from like the attorneys and then you hear it from the pro players, it's like, wow, what I'm going through is really not that uncommon. And it helps them kind of get through their struggles as, you know, preteen and
that's
teen
the first thing is to demystify your internal thought process. Like once you realize that other people loop on the same kind of issues, it changes how you look at it. It like takes away the power. Okay, it's like turning the light on when you think there's a boogeyman.
Yep.
You know, it's just like, oh, you mean it was just my stuffed animal in the closet?
Exactly.
Dang, really? That's what I was freaking out about?
You know, one thing
hit that light
that you and I didn't have to grow up with is social media.
And that's it. Social media.
You know, I've got just past teenage kids.
Yes.
And that's social media. When I look at some of the stuff that they're like, Mom, look at this.
Yes.
Do you do anything to discourage the girls from that?
So it's not really discouraging them because social media is a curse and a blessing, right? Social media is we can use it to brand our girls. We can use it to show them how to brand themselves, how to market themselves properly, you know, positively. Right. But because there's so much negativity, and some of it's not even intended to be negative, but it is. You know, there's so much negativity coming in. We do have to kind of watch. We monitor our girls' social media pages, and we do watch, and we do have one of the topics that we had during our youth leadership conference was marketing themselves. So we do touch on things like that and how to take criticism when you get it on social media, whether it's from their peers or whether it's from someone, you know, like us, someone that's older, a little bit more experienced, but how to take that and not to internalize it, because that's a lot of times what girls do. They internalize and they hold on to that. So we do touch on things like that, and that's something that's ongoing. We have to, because social media is ongoing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you mentioned it being ongoing, and that's something that's I've been able to see as like all these apps have come out, you know, while I've been going through school. And you used to be able to escape like the bullying, you know, you just go home and then, hey, you know, I play with my actual friends, have my mom and dad, and then now you have social media, and it gets even worse because everyone can come online and tag team you essentially. So I guess that's part of the problem that you're having to work through as well with the girls.
And then one of the things that is important to me and what we teach our kids is that people who bully for a reason. You know, so
hurt people.
Right. So we want people, you know, we're really big on teaching our kids to give back and teaching our kids to understand that just because you see someone on the outside doesn't mean that's who they are on the inside. So instead of approaching it from, someone said something negative, instead of responding back in a negative way, and I'm not saying you have to be friends with that person, but just, look at it as something else is going on, and it kind of helps them from a different perspective, saying, okay, this person, if she's saying this nasty something to me, then somebody said something nasty to her, and so we just try to teach them a different way to look at things. And because it is hard, because like you said, it's just an influx of just negativity all the time.
I hear a lot about that. Obviously, my generation, I'm what they call a zennial.
Yes.
Where we grew into the technology as opposed to the technology being there, and then we had to grow into like our adult life or our childhood life into social media. So I didn't experience it like that, by any means. Right. But what a big deal. And for you to be able to teach that perspective that, when you said it, hurt people. Yeah. That's actually a really smart statement.
I wish I could say it's original.
I'm sure it came somewhere, but like that's powerful. You're right. Hurt people, hurt others, and it's like communicating that to your girls. That's big.
Yeah.
When you can think outside yourself and think outside of what's actually happening and provide perspective, and then they actually learn from that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know one thing that's helped me that my dad has kind of like just ingrained in my brother and I growing up, whether it's on social media or not, if someone says something about you that you don't like, it's either going to be true or it's going to be a lie. If it's true and you don't like it, change it. And if it's a lie, then it's a lie, and then don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a big part of, brushing off, what people say on social media. It's just realize either it's a true or a lie and deal with it accordingly.
Right.
But one thing that really stood out to me, I'm big into team building. Like that's my number one role with what I do. And it fascinates me that you had this passion working with, groups of young girls and helping them overcome some of the everyday problems that, the young girls and teens grow up with. How do you transition into managing adult women? Because, there's some similarities there, but I imagine it's a totally different ball game when you're bringing in teams of established athletes who have personalities and egos, I imagine, of their own, and trying to coordinate them so they all work together as a cohesive unit.
So to be honest, I don't. I have coaches and a player development person who does that. So, now, I have expectations that are laid out at the beginning of each season. When I tell our players, I don't pick players based on how they play because I can't. I've never played, I've never coached, so that's not my area of expertise. I pick them based on what they bring to the team and what we can do for them as a player, because that is our goal. Our goal is also not just for our kids, but also for our pro players to make sure that when that ball stops, they understand that there's something else that they can do as well. But I let the coaches handle that, and that's why we hired the coaches that we hired. And I have a player development guy who is actually working to just like you said, do some of the team building and working to help the pro players brand themselves and things like that and bring everything together. Because that's not, for, owning the team. I don't have time to do that with the players, but I make sure I have people in place that can.
Yeah, I think that's critical, even though you're not necessarily hands-on, coordinating with each individual athlete. Right. You're the one that put those pieces in place with the coaches, with the player development managers that can work hand in hand to overcome any issue. Have you had anything stand out that comes to mind where you've had a problem with, without naming names, of course, but something that might be interesting that you want to expect, where you might be watching sports from the outside and thinking, oh yeah, they're all friends off the field, just as they're working together on the field. But I imagine not everyone gets along as much as you might expect.
At all. And it's pro sports, and which is another thing that made me interested in sports. There's a transition from high school basketball to college basketball. A lot of girls are not prepared for the college level, which is why, and not just girls, but a lot of athletes aren't prepared. There's over 300 athletes who drop out of Division I schools every year. That's a lot, because there's only about 300 Division I schools in this country. Yeah. Right? So that transition from high school to college is difficult. And then from college to pro is even more difficult, because college there's more cohesion. And the pro side is like a job. Now you're competing for jobs, so it kind of falls off. It's not that team mentality. And then, in pro leagues, it's you can be on the court and come off the court and be traded, and so it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more stressful. So when you're at the pro level, last year I would say our team in Atlanta, the way that they played, you would think that everyone loved each other. And they didn't. There were competition for jobs. There's competition for, and then they go through a lot, and they're really stressed. People don't understand that, but they understand that there's a common goal, and it's bigger than them. And they're really just, that's why we brought in Mary Nell Metters, because she's been in basketball for so long. She's worked with so many teams, and she can make people understand that common goal. She brings the players together.
Coach, she's the head coach.
Yes, the head coach of the Monarchs. Yeah. And even with Tanae Davis-Kane, the head coach of the Philadelphia Reign, she's been in the Atlanta area with me for about 4 or 5 years working with our kids. And the way that she's able to bring people together and make them play for a common goal, that's why she's in Philadelphia now, because that's really that's why we win. Yeah. It's not that our players are just exceptional. Now, they are. But
it's not just that.
It's not just that. It's that they're here and they're focused on one goal, and it's the goal of building women's basketball. And you can only do that through the activities that we do. You can only do that even if you don't get along, but by showing that you get along, by playing together. So it's not that you're right, everyone doesn't get along, but it's just making sure that you put the right people in place. I've had people call me and say, hey, this player wants to come play for you, and they may be a big name player, but they have and I've watched them play either in college or in the pro. They have bad attitudes. They're not going to fit our organization, so I'll turn players away that may have a big name, but if they're not going to fit our organization, they can't play for us.
You don't want anybody coming in and causing problems.
Sure don't.
Right. You don't necessarily need everybody to be best friends, but you sure don't need, some ice in between the rock. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to split things up.
Exactly correct.
Yeah, that's something that I look to do, to varying degrees of success. But going after an attitude of someone and not necessarily the skill. Skills are all trainable. It's gonna be a lot harder to change someone's attitude that they've been developing ever since they were a toddler.
Which is why we start with our girls, because you can change them in girls, but by the time they're adults and out of college, it's very, very difficult.
Right.
Well, I absolutely can back that up. I have 2 kids that were both in gymnastics, a boy and a girl, and my son's coach, his mission was boys and training boys up to be young men, and he used gymnastics as a tool. Mm-hmm. And I love that, and that has served him so well. And points later in his life where he didn't have male role models, he got to go back on those years and learn and use what he taught back with Coach Keith. Now, my daughter was in gymnastics as well, and the focus was on gymnastics and not about girls and not about the development into young women. And I tell you, I very much applaud what you've done for the girls. And I remember at the time, I used to just think, gosh, I wish my daughter had a coach that was so focused on the girls, not just the gymnastics.
Right.
Wow.
And I almost opened a gym up with Coach Keith, by the way, because I was just so impressed with what he did, and I wanted to expand that into the girls' role as well, find a coach. But that fell apart at the last minute years ago.
So
it is important, and it does play a significant factor later on. It really does.
It does.
That training comes back.
Yep.
Can you help me understand and the listeners understand the difference between like the women's NBA versus this league and how the leagues have developed? Because I mean they're all professional leagues.
Right. So the Women's Basketball Development Association, the league in which we play, which used to be the Women's Blue Chip Basketball League, they've been around for about 15 years. We are the largest pro women's basketball league in the world. Now today we have I think 31 teams, 28 in the United States, 1 in Mexico, and 1 in Canada. And it started off, the previous owner, it started off with the same mission. He wanted to provide an avenue for women to play because, especially back then, the WNBA, there's 12 teams, 144 spots. That's not enough to show the talent of women who can play, not just in the U.S., but even internationally. There's just not enough spots for all those women to play. So he started off with that goal, with that mission. Yeah. And he ran the league for about 15 years. It wasn't really marketed well. He was really just trying to do something for women's basketball. So, the marketing wasn't done. But now the new owner, William Kelly, he bought it last year. He bought the league last year. And with the help of some key people, have been able to just take the league to another level. Having the teams that we have, especially the Atlanta team and the Philadelphia team, both teams have broken. We've made history in 2 different states. Yeah. So the Atlanta team, we are the first professional basketball to ever bring a national title to the city of Atlanta. Philadelphia is the first women's professional basketball team in that city in over 20 years. So this league is now growing, it's expanding. So we're able to give opportunities now that people are kind of seeing what we're doing. We're able to give opportunity to those players who aren't going to get into the WNBA, not because they don't have the talent, but because there's really just no spots for them. So it's the league is still developing, and it's awesome to watch it develop. It's awesome to be a part of the development. It's awesome to see that, we went from not having any sponsors league-wide to now we have, league sponsors like Wooter Apparel, who's huge. They came on. I was able to bring them on as a league sponsor for our upcoming season. It's the development of this league it's just phenomenal in the direction that we're going and what we're able to do for athletes. The difference between, this league and other professional leagues is that we are a community-based organization. Everything we do is about the development of girls' sports, not just basketball. It's a development of girls' sports and the development of girls through sports. So we've made it a point to make sure that every team is in the community. I'm actually working now, we're spearheading a campaign to where I've chosen 8 teams, well 6 because 2 of them are mine, but 6 other teams that we're doing league-wide events that are league-wide community events. And we'll continue to add teams in the league to do that so that not only is the league visible, but we're actually out there and we're making a difference all year in the community.
Right.
You know, and it's going to help the league, again, continue to grow. We're going to be able to get more sponsors. We're going to be able to get more support. We're not wanting to play. I don't need to play in a Phillips Arena or anything like that. You know, we're fine. I like playing in high schools. I like playing in high school, so our purpose is working with kids, and that's where the kids are. You know, so, and we're able to give back to the high schools. We're able to help give back to the girls' sports programs in those schools. You know, and it just makes it makes more sense if you're going to sustain women's basketball at that level.
You know, and that's what really impressed me, just the brief moment that we connected on the fact that, like, when I said, because just in my research, I had read that part of the goal was to build the team up and have it be invited or become part of the Women's National Basketball League, and you said, not anymore. Tell me why.
It's just not necessary. I like the community feel, you know, and it's no disrespect to the WNBA, but if I call, and I've done this when we had our gym, and I would call the Dream and say, hey, can you send a player out to talk to the kids? It's not a player that's on the court. It's a player that's probably a veteran and doesn't really play a lot. So the kids don't really know who she is, you know, and the Dream is not in the community every day. We're in the community every single day. You know, our players, they coach kids teams. They coach these little girls. They train these little girls. They're mentoring these little girls. They're in the schools with the kids. You know, now with Gwinnett, we're looking at partnering with the Department of Recs, and we're going to be in the rec centers with the little girls.
Okay.
You know, it's like we're not wanting to take over a program. We want to enhance whatever programs that are already out there. You know, so, and you don't see that in, you know, other pro leagues, but that's what this league is about.
So how does this league gain its money? Is it just through sponsors?
Completely through sponsors. It's 100% through sponsors. Teams can get their individual sponsorships, and then the league gets sponsorships. So it's very, very important for us to go out and secure sponsorships. You know, and I tell people, they ask me all the time, you know, is it easy to be an owner? It's not easy to become an owner. It's not easy to stay an owner because it's expensive. You know, you want to attract talent. So you want to be able to take care of your talent. You know, and in our first season, we weren't able to do, the only thing we could do was house our players. And that's why it's so important to get players who buy into your mission, you know. Right. So, you know, it's very difficult to say, come play for me, but we're not going to pay you. You know, I mean, we're going to house you and we're going to take you on these trips or whatever, but there's not really a real salary. So, you know, each year as we get better, we're able to pay more, but we have to get sponsors because the more we can do for our players, the more we can do for our kids.
Who are your sponsors right now? Maybe just to kind of give them just a little bit of exposure that we can provide.
We have Booter, who is our sponsor. In Atlanta, we have 79 Barbecue, who is awesome. They actually sponsor our VIP. We have a catered VIP section for our games, so they sponsor our catered VIP. Nat Carter Photography, he's amazing. He's our photographer, and he's just done so much for us. It's not even funny. Our DJ is DJ Leo Boys, and all these are people who are doing stuff just because they believe in our mission.
Yeah.
They sponsor us out here. Out in Philadelphia, we have a sponsor called DEX, which is they provide educational services in the city of Philadelphia. Ballcat Apparel, who actually did our first uniforms in Philadelphia before Wooter came on board. So those are Adidas sponsored us last year, and they sponsor our uniforms this year for Atlanta. So, you know, we have several sponsors. We do stream our games live. We give shout outs to our sponsors. They get, depending on their level, they get courtside, you know, the banner, courtside banners. They all get VIP access. I mean, we have ways that we can promote sponsors nationally and internationally. One of our biggest sponsor is House of Cheatham Africa's Pride, which is a hair care product. It's really cool because we were able to come in and we can ship hair care products overseas to our players. So now they have international recognition, you know, through their company. Because I don't know if you know, but it's very hard to get hair care products overseas for women. But we were able to ship stuff over there. You know, Africa's Pride, they're really good. They come and they do some of our events with us as well. But you know, we can give them the publicity regionally, nationally, and internationally.
Now, I think a lot of people who are listening, you know, if they've connected the way we have with your mission, maybe they're saying, well, gosh, I'm not a big company, I'm not a business. You know, can individuals become part of a sponsorship at some level?
Absolutely.
How does someone go about doing that?
They just need to send me an email. But we do have our sponsorship package on both of our websites, on the PB Royalties website and then the Philadelphia Reign website. But individuals can sponsor, and then we do put their name on our site just like we did with the companies. They also, depending on their level of sponsorship, they get free game tickets. And we actually donate, depending on their level of sponsorship, we donate tickets to kids' organizations so the kids can come in for free and watch the game. So it's actually, they can write that off on their taxes. Our individuals can do that, and then our corporate sponsors as well. So absolutely.
What's typical of a sponsorship? Like, if someone was an individual, like, this is great, I'm going to go on the website, and they're going to, I can do $20 a month. Like,
Yeah, that's well, anything helps. But our packages generally start off at our corporate packages start off, I think, between $3,500 and $5,000. Individuals are a little bit less than that.
Yeah.
They can start off at $500.
Yeah.
But yeah, they can do.
That's a year, not a month, right?
No, that's a year. And they can break it down per month. That's fine too, especially individuals. We actually have people who do that. They will write checks or they have money just going every month into PayPal. They do $20 a month, $10 a month, and that's perfect. People understand that adds up. You figure.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, that might be. Not that you don't want the large corporate sponsor, we want that for you. But, just your mission is so right there in the heart of the community. And it's, as you're looking to gain these sponsorships, I would think the individuals need to connect in and do the monthly help.
I think we're starting to see that a lot more, just on the internet, social media. There's all these different platforms now where individuals can contribute monthly. Yep. And we're even starting to see that in political campaigns now.
Well, that's the big driving. That's how you determine how successful someone's going to be, is that the individual base. Right.
Now,
contributions.
Something that you mentioned, you said you stream the games. So how are these games accessible to people that either want to come watch them in person or watch them online? Like, how do people get involved with watching and participating in the league?
So the games are our games. The Philadelphia Reign, Atlanta Monarchs, are streamed to Facebook. And if you want to come in person, you go to our websites, Philadelphia Reign, and then pbroyalties.com, which is the home of the Monarchs website, and then just buy a ticket. You can get tickets online very easily. Everything is also on social media. Everything, all of our website, the links to everything where you can buy tickets. We're at Atlanta Monarchs on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and we're at Philadelphia Reign on Facebook and Instagram, and it's at Philly Reign WBB Women's Basketball on Twitter.
We'll have all.
And
those.
where are they played? Where are they played?
So our games are played in Philadelphia at Chestnut Hill College. And this season we're at our last home game for this last season was Brookwood High School, and we're looking at Brookwood for the next season as well, for our upcoming season.
For the Monarchs?
Yes, for the Monarchs. Yes, I like Brookwood. They're really into our mission and developing their coach and their AD. They're really into developing. So I think
and that's Gwinnett. I mean, obviously.
Yes,
just for the
Gwinnett.
listeners. So it's Gwinnett. Is there anything like most people who are already in Gwinnett know where Brookwood is?
Right.
And the games are held on like a weekend?
We play Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
Yep, which makes it easy.
And when's your season?
Our season runs from May through August.
How many games typically? Or
we typically play, total probably about 13 or 14 games.
Okay. Is that pretty average for, like the WNBA as a comparison, like just relatively speaking?
So, no, they play a little bit more. And next season, we'll probably play a little bit more as well as the league continues to grow. So next season, we're looking at probably about 22 games.
Okay.
Okay, so national champions. So let's go back to that. How did that play out? Like, to help me understand now how the leagues then, how you crossed leagues in the national championship. Like, what does that look like? Or is it just within your league, or is it?
No, it's actually within our league. So you take the top. You have the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference. You take the top 4 in each conference, and they compete against each other. And then the final 2, they compete for the championship.
And there's how many teams now? 30?
There's about 31 teams, 30 or 31 teams. 30.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, tremendous accomplishment for you. Well, thank you. I mean, because that was just, it was December 2017. It wasn't until 2018 that you were actually playing.
Yeah.
So that was just last year. Mm-hmm. And before that, you were like, I don't know. You had it wasn't like you had a vision for this.
No.
It was that all of a sudden, someone came to you with a suggestion of, hey, would you want to run a team? And then what took over?
It really was the platform in which our girls were playing, our women were playing. The ones that I had known for a couple of years, Latoya Bond, Tanae Davis-Kane, Lindsay Harvin, they've been working with me and working with the kids. And there's a lot of pop-up leagues around. And so they were trying to find a league for themselves that they just it would be competitive and people would take it seriously. And until we found at that time the WBCBL, there wasn't really anything out there. So when we found the WBCBL, they said, okay, now we need a solid coach, because anybody can be a coach in some of these leagues, we need a solid coach that can take us where we want to go in our career. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay. And I told him, I said, the first thing I have to do is get a good coach. I had met Mary Nell Metters a couple years ago, and she said one thing to Latoya Bond, and Latoya Bond played, and she's a phenomenal player. 35 years old. People do not even know how old she is, but she's a phenomenal player. And Mary Nell said, well, why aren't you still playing? And because Toy played in the WNBA. And Toya pretty much like, I don't know. She said, well, you definitely still need to be in the league. You know, and it changed the way that the Toya thought about herself and just about basketball, and then started to make her play harder, you know. So I'm like, this is who I want to coach my players. If you can say one thing to this one person that changes their outlook, then I need you to do that for a bunch of other women.
Wow.
So I called her and I asked her, and everyone said, you are not going to get her to coach your team. I said, watch me. I said, and I called her. I said, coach. She didn't know. I was like, who is this lady?
You called her
she had no
coach.
idea. I did.
You called her coach from the beginning.
I did. She had no idea who I was. And I told her what my goals were for the girl side and for the pro side. And she said, give me a few days to think about it. She called back. She said, okay, I'll do it.
Wow, that's incredible.
It is awesome. Like, if anybody who knows who Mary Nell Metters is, understand that is awesome. Like, she's just a legend in women's basketball. Like, so then she came back. I was like, oh, you're gonna come back again next year?
You were surprised.
I was like, okay, this is really awesome. So,
Well, it's changing everything.
it
No,
is.
I
no,
mean,
oh, sorry.
No, I was just, I don't know. I'm still kind of in that mode of being like, all of a sudden, it just happened.
Yeah.
Like,
did.
it wasn't happening. You were doing part of it, and you were doing it because you had a passion for the young girls. But then all of a sudden, it was like, boom.
It really happened that fast too. Like, you have no idea. I was like, am I really doing this? Like, this is really serious. I was like, I'm really doing it. No, we did it. Like, when the Monarchs won the championship, and we played again against the St. Louis Surge, who had won, I think, 2 or 3 previous championships.
1 point.
Yeah, 1 point.
1 point.
And that was actually
it was a free
during
throw.
the regular
Free
season.
throw.
It was our only loss that entire season last year was to the Surge. And they came here, and we beat them, and then we went there, and they beat us at home. So it was, you know, we already knew it was going to be competitive. But I think I just sat there and the entire team came running over to me because I was sitting on the other side of the court. I was like, oh my gosh, we really did this. I was like, I can't believe it. Like, it was amazing.
I bet
So
that
who
felt
hosted
great.
that championship game?
Yeah, who hosted it?
Yeah.
A team in North Carolina. I think they're called the Invasion. So yeah, so this year, last year, the 2018 was hosted by, I think the team in North Carolina called the Invasion. Now the way that the league is structured, the league will be hosting the championships from now on, which is a little bit better.
So, side note, I know we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but can you tell me, how do you handle the finances when you're dealing with sponsorships like that? I mean, we're all about profitability and
Yes,
thinking
we
through the
are.
journey to profits, but like, that's got to be tough.
I'm gonna be very honest. And when I talk to new owners about this, I have to be very honest with them.
Yes.
I have a full-time job. Okay,
Yeah.
because I have to be realistic. It's women's basketball. We're not selling women's basketball by itself. We're selling the community. We're selling women's basketball. We're selling great basketball, great competition, but we're also selling community. But you also have to be realistic. You're not going to be profitable in your first couple of years. You know, the St. Louis Surge, they are $1 million organization, but it took them a while to get there. There's teams in this league who are very profitable, but it didn't happen overnight. So I tell new owners, you need to be able to fund your own team for at least 2 to 3 years, you know, and if you get lucky, somebody may pay attention. You know, I've been very, very fortunate where people are paying attention and they see the bigger mission. So they, you know, it's funny because last season people will just say, hey, I'm going to write you a $2,500 check. Like, shoot, because we have to travel, you know. You know, so it's about being very, very dedicated to going out. And you have to ask. Like, it's very hard to fund something like this or fund it or think that you're going to be able to fund it through sponsors only. You know, eventually we have to get to the point where ticket sales are funding it, where apparel sales are funding it. You know, but in the meantime, for the first 2 or 3 years, it's going to be sponsorship. It's going to be the support of your community. You know, and otherwise you're not going to be able to make it happen.
So, are you the one asking?
Heck yeah. I mean, I
Everyone.
ask, my players ask, my coach, they all are bought in, so it's a joint effort.
Everyone's asking.
Right. I went to a conference, a leadership conference, a long time. It was probably about 3 or 4 years ago. And it was a CEO of some Fortune 500 company. I can't remember. It was a women's leadership conference. And she said, you have to learn to ask shamelessly. You know, and it took me a long time to understand that. And you just, all they
A
can
long
do is
time.
say
You've only been doing this for a year, so talking
I
about.
know, but I mean,
Feels like a long
it does feel
road,
like a
doesn't
long
it?
time. But yes, I just said I'm just gonna start asking shamelessly, and that's what I've done.
Yeah.
You know, I went to Philadelphia, and people are like, "Well, how are you getting the state representatives?" You know, we went to see the governor. You know, and it's like we're just asking. Like, all they can do is say no.
Well, your mission is so true to who you are. I mean, it's not like you were doing this as an owner and then decide, well, we need to do something that's like, you know,
For the
non-profit
community.
Right.
to like find some other way to ask for money.
All right.
It started with the mission. It started with the young girls. It started with the body shaming. It started with the body understanding, the self-esteem. It started with trying to help young girls break a cycle of just consistent behavioral. It's just a lot. It just sucks, and that's your mission.
Yeah.
And then this bloomed out of that. That's your why.
Yeah.
And when you have a why, it transforms everything else that you do.
Yeah.
Now, how did that come about to being like you just mentioned the conference that you went to that really helped you with the mindset to just start asking, but something that, has interested me is your background. You coming from the military, so I assume a lot of confidence in what you're doing comes from that background. But how did you build this charisma to where you could start putting all the pieces in place, bringing on top level coaches, the sponsors, attracting great talent to the team? I mean, that takes leadership, it takes charisma, it takes a lot of a lot of qualities that are very hard to just stumble upon.
So is that natural?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
the oldest of 5 girls. And I have 3 daughters, so it's I'm used to, I was raised by a single mom, so it's with my interest in the way that girls develop emotionally. My sisters and I was raised in the home with one sister, so the interest in the way that girls develop emotionally and things that they go through is by watching and knowing the stuff that my sisters have gone through. So it started there, and then having daughters, I've always known I wanted to have daughters. A lot of people ask me that about how did the military shape you. The military disciplined me because I was not a disciplined child at all. I actually was in a lot of trouble as a child. I was one of those kids that I was angry inside, but people didn't know why, which is why I tell people kids are not bad. There's something that happened. That's why it's so important for me to get to kids when they're young so that it doesn't manifest itself in a very negative way that can destroy a child's life later on in life, which it almost did for me. So the military helped me, and I was smart enough to know, like I said earlier, I knew I wanted to go in the military at a very young age. It was an escape for me, and then I knew it would give me the discipline that I needed. But I've always been stubborn. So when people tell me, when they said to me, "You will not get Mary Nell to coach your team," okay, watch me. And for me, it drives me when people say this is not going to happen. Yeah. So it just, I don't know where that comes from. My mom will tell you I'm probably born that way, but I've always been I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it. So. And I just hope my kids are like that. I hope the girls we work with are like that. Obviously it has to be fine-tuned so it doesn't get you in trouble. But, that's what I want for our girls.
Confidence.
Yeah.
Confidence that you can do it.
Yeah.
No one can tell you no.
No one can tell me no.
Actually, Corbin and I, a couple of weeks ago, were having a similar conversation where I'm like you. I would much rather someone tell me you can't do something than someone oh yeah, you're going to be the next so and so, or I already put enough pressure on myself.
Right.
You don't have to put any extra pressure on me.
Right.
Tell me I'm not going to be able to do something, and then watch me.
That's all you have to do is say you can't. I can't do what.
That's great.
That kind of plays with that music I was putting on a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
Queens, don't stop me now.
That's right.
Well, Tamika, I know you travel a lot, and I do as well. And when I get off the terminal trains and go up that really long escalator into Atlanta Airport, I always watch that big billboard there. I don't know if you guys travel a lot, but it always lists all the Atlanta greats. And I can't wait to come off that train in the future and see you and your girls on that big board.
That would be cool. Someone did say, "You guys want a billboard?" I'm like, that'd be nice. We'll see. We'll make that happen eventually.
You know the board I'm talking
Yes,
about, right?
I do.
Yeah, I love
do.
that board.
I absolutely do. I look at it every time. Even in Philadelphia, they have the same thing. They have Allen Iverson out there, and I'm like, it would be cool to have my girls, my women on this billboard one day. But again, it takes time.
Yeah.
Well,
I know I'm going to see them, so
thank you.
I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for the day.
Well, Tamika, we always like to ask, a question here on the show, and it's, is there one thing that you'd like to leave behind for someone who's listening and thinking about who might be listening right now as maybe a parent, obviously it's usually a small business owner, someone who has maybe been launched into a new role, kind of similar to what you experienced all of a sudden. What is one thing you would tell them as a piece of advice from what you've learned so far?
I've been saying this a lot. We don't look to fail, but it's okay to fail.
Yeah.
Because you can't grow without failure.
Right.
You know, we failed even with the training side. We failed a lot. And there's a lot of things I had to learn. And you can't learn those without failure. You know, it doesn't mean that you have to stop what you're doing. It doesn't mean that, you know, your business is going to fail and you just suck and everything. It just means you have to find, what am I supposed to learn in this failure?
Yeah.
And then learn from it and keep going. I think we get so down on ourselves that we stop. Like, you can't stop. It's okay to fail.
Right.
Nobody wants to. I don't want to fail. I don't like to fail. But I have to learn from that failure and keep moving.
Mm-hmm. And something that always triggers me when I hear that is it's like you need to fail quickly.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of people drag out
Yeah.
what they don't want to recognize as failure. And it's better to recognize it that it's not happening and to say, what can I learn and move on.
Yep. Something you tell the kids when they're playing, you know, when they don't understand that. Okay, if you turn the ball over, you failed. Get back on defense and get the ball back.
Right.
Yeah, you failed. Get over it. Go back. You know,
Yeah.
and it's something that it's hard because a lot of parents, we know we don't want our kids to fail. So we try to shelter our kids from the failure, but you have to let your kids fail.
Participation trophies.
Right. Oh my gosh, don't even get me on start on that. I literally sat in when I was in Indiana in an award ceremony, and they had like 22 place trophies. You didn't win. You lost. Like, you're a loser. Like, you know? So, but yeah, they did. But yeah, you have to. You know, a lot of times, like I said, we want to shelter our kids from the pain and from the. But you have, and I tell our parents, let them fail. If we lose a game by 50, I bet you will never lose another game by 50 again.
Yeah.
You know, because you're gonna have to learn something from that. You're gonna have to learn to get better.
Right.
You know, and it just happens.
Right.
We'll never lose a game by 50. But I'm just an example.
Yeah.
But it's just, you have to learn from your failures and just know
great.
it's okay to fail.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for
Thank you
joining
very
us
much
today.
for having me.
Absolutely. Jacob, you want to take us home?
Yeah, just if you want to let us know and everyone know, again, where to find your teams, how to buy tickets again, any other promotions that you want to let people know about, anything like that, just feel free to speak to the camera.
So we are on social media everywhere, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Atlanta Monarchs, or Philadelphia Reign. You can go to the website, pbroyalties.com. It's royalties, royalties.com, and get information about both teams on that site. As far as promotions, you know, going into a new season, we are securing sponsors now. This is the perfect time to come on board and secure sponsorships, because it's guaranteed that your name is everywhere, on uniforms, on our social media, on our website. This is the perfect time to do that going into our new season.
Perfect.
Fantastic. Lynn, thank you so much for being here. You know, if you're a small business owner and you don't have someone that you're talking to about your taxes on a regular basis, that pre-planning is a big piece of financial success for a business owner. Give Lynn and her team a call.
Or if you're going to make a charitable contribution, give me a call.
Absolutely.
Work that through your taxes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And Jacob, tell us where they can find you right now with all your ventures.
Right now, you can go to social media, find us, Drones iView and iView Media on social media. Go to our website, iview.media, or reach out to me directly at 678-249-0579.
And some of you guys know, but Jacob is the producer of our podcast, and his team is, helps us continue to do what we do. And so we just want to say thank you so much for that. And if you like what you're seeing and you want something like this done for your business or for yourself as you're growing a business, reach out to Jacob for that as well. And if you have any questions about bookkeeping and really creating a profitable business, you're struggling with cash flow, reach out to me, Corbin Cook, at 404-783-3305. And have a great week, and we look forward to talking to you again.
Perfect.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Tamika.
Thank you.